In an interview with NBC this morning, President Raisi suggested that these are Iran's funds, that they can decide how the money's spent, whether that be on humanitarian goods or whatever it is that the Iranian people need. Why do you think that he's under that impression?
Well, so follow up a little bit what I just said to Matt. That may have been the policy under the previous administration, where these accounts were allowed to be spent for purposes that we cannot track. It is not the policy of this administration, and it is not the arrangement that will be in place here. I understand why the foreign minister may need to make those remarks, but the facts of this arrangement are when this money arrives in these accounts in Qatar, it will be held there under strict oversight by the United States Treasury Department, and the money can only be used for humanitarian purposes. And we will remain vigilant in watching the spending of those funds and have the ability to freeze them again if we need to.
What do you say to critics who are looking at this and saying this is a pretty clear, direct payment for the release of hostages? Is there any change in policy as far as willing to pay a ransom?
So I will say two things about that. Number one, when you refer to it as a payment, again, this was Iran's money in accounts in South Korea that have always been legally allowed to use for humanitarian purposes. So the United States is not giving Iran anything or is not paying Iran any amount of money. But the second thing I will say is I see a lot of what I will call kind of false choices and maybe wishful thinking. Wishful thinking is probably a too benevolent a way to describe it by some of the critics of our work to bring American citizens home. I see people all the time that will say, of course I want to bring these American citizens home, but I don't think that the United States should allow this transaction to go forward. Iran is not going to release these American citizens out of the goodness of their heart. That is not real life. That is not how this works. That was never going to happen. We have to make tough choices and engage in tough negotiations to bring these American citizens home. There were 5 American citizens who have been jailed under brutal conditions, one of them for more than 8 years, and the Secretary and the President decided that we need to do everything we can to bring them home, and that's what we're doing.
Appreciating all of that, does it remain U.S. policy that you will not pay ransom for hostages?
It does. Yeah, Humera had her hand up. If you still.
Thank you, Matt. Just want to ask an update on where we are on the unfreezing of the funds. I mean, is it 80% complete, almost complete? Just trying to get a sense of the timeline that was said weeks ago.
I'm not going to get into specific details other than to say that the funds are in the process of being transferred to their ultimate destination, which are these accounts in Qatar. They are not there yet, but we are in the process of transferring them there.
Okay, and based on that,
you're right. Thank you for the correction. They are in the process of being transferred there.
And based on that, when would you expect the actual swap to take place?
I don't have any announcements to make about when that will occur.
Right. And I just want to sort of follow up on something that you just said. You said U.S. will have the ability to freeze Iranian funds transferred to Qatar if necessary.
Correct.
Is there going to be some sort of a criteria for that? You're going to be monitoring it throughout what period?
The criteria is that these funds, when they're deposited in these accounts, can only be spent for humanitarian purposes. So the purchase of food, the purchase of medicine, the purchase of other humanitarian products. The Treasury Department has strict oversight over the use of those funds. We have visibility into how they are used, and we have the ability to police their use.
Right. And one more thing. I know you guys have kept saying these are 2 separate tracks. Like we're not in a place with to revive JCPOA and all that. But if this all goes just fine, what is next for U.S.? Are you thinking about trying to revive the nuclear talks one way or the other?
I think what's next ultimately depends on Iran and what it's willing to do. These are separate matters. This has been a policy we have pursued, or an action we have pursued, to free these 5 wrongfully imprisoned American citizens. Separately, we do remain focused on constraining Iran's nuclear program, constraining its destabilizing behavior. We remain committed to ensuring it never obtains a nuclear weapon. The reason I said it's up to some extent, to the actions by the Iranian, you just saw the remarks from the Director General of the IAEA yesterday, who said that Iran is not cooperating with the IAEA in a satisfactory way. So if Iran wants to, I mean, we have always said we welcome diplomacy and would be open to diplomacy to seek a resolution to Iran's nuclear program. But if you just look at their actions and the fact that they are not fully cooperating with the IAEA, that's a sign that they're not taking the steps they need to at this point.
How many nuclear weapons does Israel have?
Go ahead.
To follow up on that, would that explain from what you said why
Apparently the U.S. would not support a resolution in front of the IAEA condemning the non-cooperation of Iran?
I think I say we don't have any specific action to preview today about what the IAEA may do, but you should expect us to coordinate with other members of the board, of like-minded nations who share our concern with Iran's nuclear program, to once again call on Iran to cooperate fully with the IAEA.
Yeah, but it's our understanding that you would support some sort of common declaration or what have you, but not a resolution per se.
I don't want to speak to what exact form our actions with the IAEA or what actions the IAEA may take, other than just what I said, which is you should expect to see us working with other members who share our priorities to clearly express that Iran should cooperate fully with the IAEA. Alex.